What's up, guys? This is TechnoViking23 coming to you today with some Overwatch commentary, and in specific we're going to be talking about the Overwatch League and some of the new expansion teams that have been coming out, most particularly the Atlanta Reign, which this reveal is one I've been looking forward to for a long time, given that I live in Atlanta, and Atlanta is kind of like my second hometown. I've lived here the second longest in my life. So I was really excited when they announced we were going to get an Overwatch League team. Now, I know this news came out a couple weeks ago. I'm kind of late on the bandwagon here. I've just been crazy with work and real life and other things. Didn't get to make a video right when it came out, even though I wanted to. And it's kind of cool that I waited because now there's been a lot more drama surrounding the Atlanta team that I can kind of talk about toward the end of the video. But anyways, they have the new skins, which I think look really, really good. They match kind of like the primary colors of most of Atlanta's teams, which are red and black for the most part. Although, if I'm being honest, the skins that they showed for the Toronto team actually look more like Atlanta's colors. So it was kind of disappointing that Toronto kind of got what should have been the Atlanta color scheme. Not super sold on the name. I do like the logo. I think it's pretty cool. They're going with the whole Phoenix theme. Supposedly Atlanta has risen from ashes several times. The city's been burned to the ground more than once in its long history. But I don't really understand the name Atlanta Reign. I'm not really sure what that is because there's no kings in Atlanta. We don't really reign over anything. We're one of the biggest cities in the South and in the country, and we do have a really good economy and a very diverse economy and diverse population here, but we really don't reign over anything. So I'm really not too sure where they got the name from. I don't know what would have been a better name, but something bird-themed perhaps, like the rest of our sports teams here. I was actually kind of shocked they didn't call us some type of bird of prey or something, because we have the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Falcons, and when we had an NHL team, they were the Atlanta Thrashers. So just really surprised that the Reign was the name they went with. But that's obviously not my decision to make. I don't get paid big bucks like the guys that supposedly did the branding. But I am excited for the team. I like the skins. I can't wait to give Blizzard all my money to buy them for my favorite characters, which is inevitable. And also kind of waiting around to see what kind of merchandise we're going to get for the team, because I'm obviously going to support them. Last season, I was a big Philadelphia fan, mainly because they had my favorite main tank in the game, in Fraggy, and also because that was the closest team to the city I lived in for a good period of time, which was Pittsburgh. So I kind of rooted for Philly most of the season, rooted for the Gladiators a little bit too, because they had Fisher, and he was one of my favorite tanks as well. I usually main Reinhardt, so those were my two favorite players to watch in Fraggy and Fisher. So kind of fell in love with Surefour's gameplay later in the year and really cheered for LA Gladiators pretty hard, but them and Philly were my two favorite teams. I'll probably still root for Philly, but Atlanta is going to take over as my number one team just because I've lived here for a long time. And even though I've lived here the second longest in my life, I really don't root for any of Atlanta's hometown teams because I grew up liking different teams. I grew up in parts of West Virginia where we don't really have professional sports, and WVU is kind of it's the college team. It's the major team everybody kind of goes with. So I actually went against the grain. Everybody that grows up in West Virginia is either a Cincinnati Bengals fan or a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I actually went with the Indianapolis Colts for the sole reason that my dad went to Michigan, and their quarterback at the time was John Harbaugh, who also went to Michigan, and he had the same birthday as me. So that was my entire logic at the young age of, I want to say, 8 or 9 years old, for choosing my favorite NFL franchise. So I've been a Colts fan my entire life. Everybody used to call me bandwagon when we had Peyton Manning and we were doing well, but I was like, hey, we sat through a lot of 2-14 and 3-13 years to get this draft pick, so lay off. NBA, I was always an Indiana Pacers fan, but I haven't really paid attention to the NBA in several years. In NHL, I've been a Detroit Red Wings fan my entire life because both of my parents are from Detroit, and I grew up watching hockey with my dad and just being a Red Wings fan and hearing all the old stories about when they used to watch Gordie Howe and some of the other Hall of Fame players. So those have been my favorite teams, and even when I moved to Atlanta, I never really adopted any of the teams here. Even for baseball, I kind of rooted for the Pittsburgh Pirates, even though they were terrible when I lived in Pittsburgh and they finally started to get good. So it's going to be cool to have a hometown team that I can root for. And that people are going to kind of be like, who's the Atlanta Reign? Like most people aren't super familiar with esports, even though Atlanta is fairly popular for them. But I'm just really looking forward to it. I don't really know any of the players on the roster. I think we got most of our guys out of contenders. We didn't really get to trade or get anybody in terms of free agents from any other Overwatch League teams, which was kind of disappointing. I was hoping we might be able to pick up a few seasoned players or even make a trade or two. Quite honestly, because I don't know how good we're going to be in our first year. I think if we're lucky, we'll probably be anywhere from the middle of the pack team to the lower tier of the league. And the reason I say that is, given the fact that a lot of these players are coming in and there's so many expansion teams, a lot of these guys and contenders weren't good enough to get into Overwatch League last season. And now you have a lot of teams with solely contenders players on them. And I just don't see where the top tier teams like New York and London and Philadelphia and these teams with all these seasoned Overwatch veterans are going to fall off that much. So I think the top of the league is going to be top heavy like it was last year. And I think you're going to have a middle pack, and then there's going to be a lower tier pack, which is going to be like 5 or 6 teams that are just as bad as Shanghai was last year. I hope Atlanta doesn't fall into that, but I think at the best we're probably going to be a middle of the pack team. Although a lot of people seem to be really, up on our roster, so it's interesting. But like I said, I've really never heard of anyone on our roster, with the exception, of course, of dafran. And that's what we're going to talk about here at toward the last half of this video. Dafran's had a very interesting career in general with Overwatch and esports, and we all know he's been a rather volatile player at times. He's been banned a few times. I can't remember if it was he quit on his esports team or he got suspended from them or whatever happened. There's been a lot of drama surrounding dafran. He's been a toxic player at times. He has thrown competitive matches at times. He's been banned for one-tricking. I think it was with Torbjorn, even though a lot of people said that wasn't warranted. But he's just been in the spotlight for a lot of the wrong reasons with Overwatch. And so it was kind of weird when Atlanta announced, there was a big rumor going around that Atlanta was going to bring dafran on board to be part of the team in the first year. So I kind of held my breath a little bit because, honestly, he's a really, really good player. When he was playing pro, he was one of the best players in the world. I think at one time he was the top-ranked player, and he was one of the, if not the best Hitscan players that ever played Overwatch. Obviously, now his skills may not be up to that same level as they were, but he would still be a valuable person to have on the team if he can kind of control his emotional things and his outbursts and not get down on himself and get upset and start throwing. Well, he announced finally that he was on Atlanta, and then there was, I believe, a member of the Atlanta management team that went on his stream and made like a $5,000 donation and basically making the announcement he was on the team. And he announced it on his Twitter, and everybody seemed to be all excited about it. Well, then, I think it was like roughly a week after that, he had a meltdown and just was like, I'm quitting Overwatch, I'm not playing this game anymore, I've just lost it. Don't like playing the game, don't enjoy it, I hate it. Terminated my contract with Atlanta, blah, 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 blah. And just went on this huge just rage on Twitter. And it went a couple of days, and Atlanta didn't actually issue any kind of press release. They didn't talk about it at all. They didn't really say what was going on, which made it even stranger because you would think if the team had seen this, they would make some kind of statement or announce at least what was going on. But they didn't, and then a couple days later, dafran came back, and he actually apologized on Twitter and said he wasn't quitting Overwatch, and he was still with Atlanta, and all this other stuff. So I'm assuming someone, the team had a very deep discussion with him on the fact that you can't just break your contract by posting something on Twitter. It's not how it works. There's a lot of legal stuff involved, especially with these esports contracts, and I'm sure dafran is getting a pretty decent salary compared to some of the other newer players in Overwatch League. So there was probably some kind of no-show or buyout clause or something where if he decided to quit beforehand, I don't think Atlanta was going to let themselves be embarrassed. So it wouldn't surprise me if they had drafted something in his contract to the extent of, if you quit or try to terminate early, you have to, there's got to be some kind of financial repercussion on your end. But we'll never know what happened because I'm sure they're going to keep most of that under wraps. And all we know right now is that he is still with Atlanta and still going to play in Overwatch League Season 2. Now, I have to admit, part of me was hoping Atlanta would come out and say something during this time period and possibly even cut ties with dafran, because what I am sort of fearing is that we're going to have the same situation that the Dallas Fuel had last year with XQC. And that's essentially he's not going to be able to make it a full stage without being suspended or banned for doing something on his stream or just saying something or going on Twitter and having an outburst. But we'll see. We're just going to have to play it by ear. Hopefully Atlanta knows what they're doing. They had an entire first season of Overwatch League to kind of look at and see what areas they need to improve upon helping players. I think mental health was a big thing that was discussed in the offseason. And a lot of people have said that dafran seems like he might be bipolar or have some kind of mental problem health-wise. And if that's the case, I do hope Atlanta is at least making an effort to get him some kind of help, whether it's therapy or just an outlet for some of the stress. I said a lot last year with the first season of Overwatch League, these players, they're on this game 12 hours a day, 8 hours a day, just that's all they're doing, and they're such stress to perform on stage. You need some kind of outlet. And even myself personally, I don't do anything nearly that intense training-wise, but I'm at work, 11, 12 hours a day in a very fast-paced, high-stress job dealing with very large financial transactions where there's very little room for error, and you are under the gun, especially at the end of the quarter or the end of the month when everyone's trying to close their deals. And it's amazing to me, like, if I go an entire week without going to the gym, by the time I get to Friday, I'm just so drained, I'm completely worn out, and it doesn't really take much to set me off at that point. Now, if I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, even for 30 minutes a day, and I ride the bike or I go for a run or I lift weights, I can't tell you how amazing I feel all throughout the rest of the week. Just having that outlet for the stress. And it just blew my mind that during Overwatch League in the first season, you had all of these players, just having these breakdowns, getting homesick, just not feeling well and not being able to play, like Effect, Pine, all these other guys that went through this problem. And it just kind of blew me away that they didn't have some kind of personal training program for these guys, get them all in the gym for an hour a day as a team and let them sort of exercise and just blow off some stress, maybe go get a punching bag and beat on that for a little while. It just didn't seem like they had anything in place in Season 1 for the mental health aspect of the players, and just in terms of letting out that stress, letting the guys get out and relax. It just seemed like it was just like, we got to scrim all day, and then they go home and stream for another 5 or 6 hours, and it's no surprise that some of them kind of snapped under that pressure, because they're young kids and they're thrown into this professional environment, and a lot of them aren't used to having that kind of structure, or just having to practice so much and play so much. So I really hope Season 2 improves overall for the entire league, and that they're able to get the players a little bit of help for these stressful times. And I really think they'd benefit from having a players union in Overwatch League as well. But I'm kind of off topic now. It just kind of came out of the talk about dafran and how he seems like he may have some mental things going on and he's a little bit of help with it. So I do hope Atlanta really stays with it and they try to get him the help he needs, because I think if he does play and he can't keep himself under control, he's going to be a really good addition to the team. I don't know if he'll start, but he would definitely be someone you're bringing in off the bench as a Hitscan specialist, which right now in the meta isn't exactly necessary, but who knows what the meta is going to be by the time we get to Overwatch League Season 2 start. But like I said, I'm kind of nervous and just worried that we're going to have an XQC situation Part 2, and I really don't want Atlanta to have to deal with that kind of drama in their first season, because that can really hurt a team and just prevent them from getting together and gelling as a squad. We saw what it did to Dallas, who, toward the end of Overwatch League Season 1, Dallas was a completely different team versus where they were like the first 2 stages when they were dealing with all the drama surrounding XQC and even Taimu, and even Effect to a point where he was just seemed like he was just struggling to stay with it, and then he had to leave for stages 3 and 4. So I'd like to get through the first season with Atlanta in Overwatch League drama-free if we can, and actually see them do pretty well and get a couple of wins. Hopefully we'll win at least 1 game, so we won't be the Shanghai Dragons 2.0. But we'll see. There's still a lot yet to be determined. But anyways, I'm not going to let that temper my excitement. I'm very excited that Atlanta's going to have a team coming for Season 2, something I get to watch on Twitch a lot, and probably have some watch parties around. We're still waiting to see if they're going to have an event anywhere in the city for the announcement of the team. If they are, there's a couple buddies of mine we play regularly that will probably go down to that and try to get some swag or see what's going on, maybe meet some of the people. One of my buddies here is a general manager for a company in Atlanta who is, I think they're trying to get in and possibly get a sponsorship with them, and I've been hitting him up real hard to do that because that'd be kind of cool to get some tickets or something, or who knows what else he could get for me. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this video. As always, I hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to comment down below. Let me know, who your favorite Overwatch League team is, and who you're going to be rooting for in Season 2. What you think Atlanta's chances might be, if you think any of the new players and new teams are going to be stand out and do particularly well. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you again next time.